Hey guys, how's it going? Today we are going to be talking about the keys to learning English. And right now I have a lot of different devices set up, so if you see me looking in one direction or in another direction, that's not because I'm not paying attention to you. It's because there are a lot of different devices hooked up right now and trying to make sure that everybody gets a little bit of my attention. So, let's see. Right now we're using the Speak In app. If you haven't heard about the Speak In app, Google it. You'll find it. It's great. You can use it through Facebook, through VK. There's a lot of uses for it and a lot of teaching uses for it. So if you're trying to learn English, you can go there and you can definitely find a lot of resources. If you're watching me through VK Live, then what's up, guys? Hey, thanks for saying hi. I see you guys. I know it's kind of late for some of you over there, but if you're watching me through VK Live, then I hope you stay long enough to get some useful information out of this. And if you are watching me on Facebook, then some of you probably don't know that I am an English teacher. Apart from my other businesses and ventures, I also do English teaching, and I have an English school in Yekaterinburg, Russia, where other American guys can come over to the Russian Federation and teach Russians English. We don't just hire anyone. We have certified teachers who are professionals at teaching English, and so we have this service over in Russia for those of you who are interested in that. But today's focus is we're going to be talking about the keys to learning English. And if any of you have questions, feel free to write me on VK Live, on Facebook Live, or on the Speak In app, as I said. So, hey Demir, thanks for telling me that you like the lessons. I'm glad you watched them. I'm glad that they were useful for you. And by the way, anybody who is not familiar with that, I'm going to actually send some links to those videos, and a sign-up sheet will be in the comments under the video on each of the platforms that I mentioned, where I'm streaming right now. So, without further ado, if you will, let's talk a little bit about the keys to learning English, because that's why you're all here. At least most of you. Some of you just clicked because the thing popped up on your screen. You said, wonder what that guy's doing. So yeah, the keys to learning English. You said, could you repeat the first platform? Yeah, the first platform, the main platform that I'm using right now is called Speak In. That's speak, like talk, .in, I-N. If you Google it, you should be able to find it. There's also an app, and you can connect to this app through your Facebook or through your VK. Hi from Yekaterinburg. Hi back. So, keys to learning English. A lot of people want to learn English around the world, and it's clear why. The benefits are great. You know, if you learn English, you have a lot more opportunities to speak with people from around the world in different countries. If you learn English, you have a better chance of getting a higher paying job, a higher position, because you will be able to communicate with more people around the world. And also, if you learn English, you just have a lot more opportunities in general. Just think about globalization today. A lot of people around the world want to communicate with people in other places, and they need English to do this. So if you learn English, you give yourself the opportunity to meet people, to be in more situations, to understand more discussions, to get more new information. Just think, if you speak English, if you know English, then you're going to be able to get the newest information about some technological things right now, the newest information, and be ahead of other people. So if you're in the business sphere, or if you're in any other area of business, then you're going to be a great asset to your company, and you're going to be able to, get better results. And that's why I'm here, because my business is English, and I want to help you get results. So the first key to learning English, and I just can't repeat this enough, the biggest thing that you can do when you're trying to learn a language or any other skill for that matter is to be motivated. Now, that might sound really logical. It might sound very simple. Get motivated, right? But it's not that simple. It's never that simple, is it? For any of you guys who are watching right now, you know that right now, when I say get motivated, it's not that simple. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you some ways that you can get motivated. And especially, I know a lot of the people who watch me are people who are English teachers in other countries. I know people from Brazil have written me, people from, people from Russia, of course, Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, different South American countries, even people in Africa and Europe have written me and told me that they are English teachers and they use some of my resources. So I want to continue to be a useful resource for those people who are English teachers around the world. And I'm going to tell you not only that you need to be motivated, but you need to be able to motivate other people, right? As a teacher, you need to be able to motivate other people. How can you do this? Well, I'm going to tell you a funny story to start it off, because really, just about a week ago, I think it was, I woke up and I thought that, some things in my life aren't going the way that I want them to go. You might think, Kris, come on, everything's going pretty well, but I'm serious. I woke up a few days ago and I thought, I really don't like how things are going right now. And I decided nobody's going to change that. Nobody can change that. Nobody can do anything to make that differently. The only person who can change it is me. Only me. The only person who can give me motivation, who can make things change in my life, is me. And that's why I decided to take control of my life and say, I can do this. So this story gets funny because when I started thinking about all this stuff, I was actually in the shower. And I was standing in the shower thinking about all this. Oh, who's going to change this? Who's going to change this? Only me. Only I can change this. And I started just screaming out loud, yes! Yes! I can change this. Yes, I can do it. For me, that was motivation. And now I think about that. And sometimes when something's going hard, I just scream to myself, yes. Maybe you aren't as strange as I am, but it worked for me. And I think that if you try this, this might work for you too. But, maybe this isn't realistic in a classroom setting, or, if you have that big client who you're supposed to teach English to, maybe it's not realistic to be screaming, yes, yes, all the time. But that means that for these people, we need to find a different way to motivate. So, how can we motivate our students, and how can we motivate ourselves? You probably know that there's different types of motivation. In the morning, you need motivation to wake up and go to work. That's just to do some simple, usual activities. You need motivation to get things done around the house. Housework, chores. You need motivation for this. Hey guys, thanks for saying hi. What about you guys? What kind of motivation do you use? How do you motivate yourselves? Because motivation can work differently for different people. And it's important that we know how to motivate ourselves so that we don't get lost and lose all of our motivation. So, what do you guys think? What's a good way to motivate yourself? I see Elvira writing me, students are really sick and tired toward the end of the academic year. I 100% agree. And how do we motivate them? Karina says, I listen to my favorite music. That's great. So at the end of the academic year, that's a perfect example. How can we motivate people at the end of the academic year? Right now, it's the end of the academic year for some of us. And how can we motivate people to do better, to keep going, you know? One way that we can motivate people is finding something that they enjoy, right? We all have used this strategy before. Something that they like, something they enjoy. Music, yes, music is one of the best ways because it shows that you connect to someone. But I'm going to have to tell you that music doesn't always work, right? Music works only with specific groups of people, like teenagers. With teenagers, music really works because they can connect to the teacher through music. And what we're really doing when we use music to teach teenagers is we're usually showing them that we have some kind of common interest, and we're showing them that we are equals on some kind of level, that we enjoy the same thing. So once they accept us not as someone who is telling them what to do, but instead as a person who can enjoy the same things that they can enjoy, that's where we see success using this strategy. But we need to be really careful when we use, video games, music, and other things like that, films or TV shows maybe, because we can fall into the trap of using this too much, first of all, or maybe, moving away from the direction that the lesson or the course needs to move in. So when we do this, we need to be very careful, and we need to limit how much we use that type of media source. I'm not saying that you can't use it every lesson. I'm not saying that you can't use it the whole lesson. I'm just saying that the teacher needs to control the direction of the lesson and of the course, and sometimes other media and other ways of connecting to the student can be problematic if we focus too much on them. So, what are some other ways that we can focus on our goals, but also motivate our students and ourselves? I saw Damir was writing, if we need to clearly state our goals, know our goals, motivated. And that's definitely true. So why am I talking so much about motivation? Because this is the first and one of the biggest keys to learning English or any other skill. English is a language, and learning languages is learning behavior. You might not have thought about that before. That when we learn a language, we're really learning behavior. Some of you guys who are more familiar with me might know that I speak a little bit of Russian. And how did I go about learning this language? It was behavior. It was all a behavioral study. You might also know that I studied psychology when I went to university. And I used this background in my teaching and in my studying of things also. So behavior is really the thing that I focus on. And language as a behavior can be studied in a very, very direct and easy to understand way. Because, let's think about it, okay? If you don't know a language, what do you usually learn first? You learn something like hi, bye, right? Thank you, please, something like this. So you start to say this to some people, and the internet gives us the ability to, speak with many people around the world and practice this behavior or this skill. You start by saying hi and bye to people, and then people react. People do a behavior back. They show something to you. And this gives you a clue about what you should do next and if you should continue or not. So if you say, hi to somebody and they just ignore you, then probably you're going to think, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I didn't do it the right way. On the other hand, you might progress to the next stage. You might say hello, they might say hello back, and then you might try to use another phrase, a question, something like, maybe in English, what's up? How are you? How's it going? How do you do? And different things like this. And quickly, you're going to understand how people react to you when you choose specific behaviors. So, does that make sense? Language is a behavior. And if we want to learn the language, we need to learn the behavior. Motivating ourselves and our students to learn this behavior is the first key to learning English. So, motivation comes from a lot of different places. And we need to try to make that as natural for the student as possible, and for ourselves. When this motivation touches something deep inside of us, something that is real, that's when that motivation really can drive us to be successful. So, in different situations, this motivation will look much different. Sometimes this motivation will look like discipline. Discipline is a way to motivate people. And not only discipline, positivity, telling people that they're doing a good job. This is also a way to motivate people. Many bosses at work try to use these different types of motivation. Some are successful, some aren't. But really, when we're trying to be successful at motivating people, we need to first try to make some kind of connection, and we need to understand something about that person as an individual. So, of course, this is easier to do when you're teaching a one-on-one lesson as opposed to teaching a group lesson. We want to focus on what motivates this specific person. And usually we don't ask them, hey, what motivates you? Although you could, maybe that would work for some people. But for most people, it's going to be a little too direct. So what we want to do is we want to create a situation where we actually are forming elements of a relationship. And this is something that a lot of people haven't thought of before. This is what I really want to share with you, and I want to tell you, which is the thing that's worked so well for me, and which has allowed me to, to influence so many people in such a positive way, to get so many people results when they've studied English and when they've wanted to teach English and get better results for their students. What you really need to do is you need to form a relationship. A teacher models a relationship for his or her students. And this modeled relationship allows students to have experience growing a relationship with an English speaker. That's really what I think is the focus of English teaching today. Over the last, 20 plus years, the focus has been on communication, and that is a good thing. That's a positive direction. Before that, a lot of things were focused on grammar and translation, and grammar is very important. I love grammar. If you've watched any of my videos, then you know that I love grammar. But grammar is not the only thing that people need. People need to learn how to communicate, because a language is a spoken thing. A language is a living thing. And people need to have practice speaking and communicating in the language in order for them to make progress. Otherwise, they're going to speak like a book, or they're going to forget a lot of things they learn, or a lot of other negative things that we don't want to happen. So to avoid all of this, we want to model a relationship for our students and for people who are learning English. So, what can we do to model this relationship appropriately and correctly? we need to have a plan. And as Demir said earlier, when he was writing his comments on this video, we need to have a good idea, a clear idea of what our goals are and what our students' goals are. When we know what our students' goals are and we know what our goals are as the teacher, then we know how to set up the right environment for developing a relationship. We develop a relationship, and develop means over time. So we have to have a plan. A plan that is going to show different stages of development of a relationship. So, for example, you have a student and you teach something to your student, but your student only takes that as one lesson, and maybe your student doesn't even understand that it's one concept of a lesson. Your student might just think that this is one part of a lesson, like a presentation, like a grammar presentation or a discussion about a specific topic. Your students probably only are catching this direct idea. Now we're discussing houses. Now we're discussing pets. They might not actually understand that you're tying this idea into something bigger. For example, you can easily use the alphabet, the English alphabet, to make a first lesson. It's an easy first lesson, and why not, right? But you can easily go from, even if someone is, upper intermediate, they might be interested in this. You can make a lesson about the alphabet transition directly into the difference between consonants and vowels, which can also transition into a discussion about when to use articles. Let me show you. So first you go through pronunciations of different letters, and for those of you out there who who might be thinking, what's he talking about? First of all, let's imagine that we're teaching someone how to pronounce different letters in the English alphabet. So what I would say is, for example, let's take the letter O, for example. Some people have trouble with this pronunciation, the pronunciation of this letter. And hey guys, and for example, the letter O. Usually in English, when we see the letter O, there are two different pronunciations that it might have. We have O, which is a lot different from some other languages which pronounce this letter usually as O. We have O in English, which has two sounds, the and the U. O, basically. And the other usual sound that the letter O makes in English words is the sound aw, which is like a mix between ah and o. Aw. So, this is just an example. So we start with a presentation of, pronunciation of English letters in the alphabet. We transition from this all the way to the end of the alphabet. For example, you can add in some information that people might not know, like the letter X at the beginning of a word that sounds like Z. And we transition through the whole alphabet into a discussion about, consonants and vowels. So why is this important? To understand what a consonant is and what a vowel is. By the way, for those of you who don't know what this is, a consonant consonants are letters like B, C, D, G, H, T, these letters. And vowels are letters like A, E, I, O, U. But we have this strange letter in English, the letter Y, which can be both either a vowel or a consonant. And this is actually really important when we come to articles, a and an. When do we use a and when do we use an? Well, everyone knows that we use a before. What do you think? It's not before a word that starts with a consonant, it's before a word that starts with a consonant sound. And we use an before words that start with a vowel sound. So, the sound at the beginning of the word is important. That's why we just taught them sounds from the letters of the alphabet. And now we understand which ones are vowel sounds and which ones are consonant sounds, and we can give them examples of which words used a before them and which ones used an. So the student sitting in the classroom only understands that first we were talking about the alphabet, then we talked about vowels and consonants, and then we talked about articles. And only at the end of this, series of 3 topics, they understood, oh, all of this was together in one lesson. But what I'm telling you is what a good teacher today, what a great teacher today should be doing, and this is something that I am promoting in my webinar series and in my one-on-one coaching sessions. This is something that I'm promoting all over the place, and I'm actually writing a lot of information about it. You'll see a lot more videos about this. Is not only the communicative method, where every lesson and topic is presented in a way that's like a conversation, but also a relationship element to teaching. And this is something that hasn't really been introduced into the general world of ESL yet, but it should be. Communicative and relationship approach. So, let's talk a little bit more about what communicative means, and we'll go back to what I was saying about building relationships in the classroom. So, the communicative approach, a lot of you out there probably already use this, and this is generally considered one of the most, let's say, important or the most widely spread approaches in English teaching today. And like I said before, it's much better than grammar, translation, and all of that we had a long time ago. And I'm a big fan of the communicative method. I just think we need to add more onto it. So communicative method basically says that we need people to communicate as much as possible. And of course we do. We're learning a language, right? It just shocks me how in some places people think that they're going to listen to someone speak and that's how they're going to learn. No, you have to speak. You have to learn. You have to write. One of the main ideas of English learning and learning any skill is doing it yourself, putting it to practice. So, you need to create original thought, original ideas. And the teacher's position should be to help students generate original ideas and original thought. But as I said, too often, people stop right there. And they say, okay, I am pushing people to think originally. I'm giving people space to express themselves with original ideas and original thought. But how does that carry over throughout a course? How does that carry over throughout the academic year? What we need to be doing is we need to be modeling developments of relationships. So, you have a student-teacher relationship, or you have, a mentor and mentee relationship, or you have any kind of other relationship. And teachers actually have a lot of roles in the classroom, right? So teachers can really develop these kinds of relationships in many different ways. Let's just keep it at the teacher as a role model, and as a counselor, and as a teacher, a person who educates. If we just take this simple type of relationship and we understand that even these relationships change over time, then we should be able to understand how a student needs to pick up on, he needs to understand, he needs to see these transitions between first meeting to getting to know someone, to we know each other fairly well, to the next stage. There are a lot of different stages in the development of the student-teacher relationship and in the language learning relationship. Any of you who are teachers out there probably already understand what I'm talking about. For example, when you first start speaking with someone, you usually speak in a much more formal tone. And the problem is that a lot of language learners get stuck right there. The teacher keeps this very formal, official way of speaking, and the student, unfortunately, isn't able to progress past that, which can be very problematic. So you get a lot of students who are stuck in one of those first or one or two stages of, building a language relationship. And when they go and they meet someone who's their own age, someone from their peer group, they try to speak that way. And that's what we in English say, speaking like a book. That's how we call that. We call it speaking like a book. And when you speak like a book, it sounds very unnatural. It sounds, nobody wants to speak like a book. Nobody wants someone else to tell them that they speak like a book. And to avoid that, we need to make sure that people are progressing through stages of the language relationship. So the teacher not only is going to present students and speak with students in that way, but the teacher needs to progress also. And when the teacher builds in signals or keys to show when someone is transitioning from one stage to the next, then the language learner can take note of that, and they can understand exactly why this is happening. So, if you meet a young person, I consider myself a young person even though I'm 30 years old. Let's say that if you're, under 40 or even 45, if you're 40, they might say, "What's good? What's new? How's it going?" You probably won't find a person that age who's going to say, "Hello, how do you do?" Although a lot of people who study English learn this greeting and don't really learn any others. They think, okay, this is the standard way to say it, and that's it. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm saying that that's great for the first lesson, maybe the second lesson. But at some point, when you are in the same room as someone, when you're speaking with someone and you're learning from someone for weeks and weeks and weeks, every time you go to them, an hour or an hour and a half, and you go to them twice a week, after 2 or 3 weeks, you spend a lot of time with that person compared to other people. You might end up spending more time with that person than you do with some of your friends. And that person is called an English teacher. So that English teacher needs to break the student out of that typical first or second stage of language relationship and needs to push them into another level, another layer, so that when they go and meet English-speaking people in another country when they're traveling, or when they meet people for work, or any other type of place where they're going to meet English speakers, they already have a language relationship that was modeled by their teacher. So, everybody's still following me? I know I've been going on for quite a while about this relationship modeling. And this is the type of, this is the part of the approach that I use that I think has given me a lot of success and that really differentiates what I'm doing from other people. We have the communicative approach, which we use a lot, which means that we are involving everyone in a discussion, in a way to practice original ideas and speak. But we're also, long-term, paying attention to aspects of relationships that are going to be modeled by the teacher and repeated by the student. Not repeated, but reenacted by the student with other English speakers who they meet. So, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to everyone who's online, who's joined us for the live streams here. So, looks like on Facebook Live, we have Garrett. Hey, Garrett, what's up? Eric, hi. Justin, hey, how's it going, man? Eugene, Aitan, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining in. Let's go back over to Speak In. So over here on Speak In, it looks like we have some people watching. Let's see. And here we can even. Hey Olga, how's it going? We have Lana, Paulina, Mr. Imagine. Hi, how's it going? Great. If you guys feel like speaking in at any time, that would be great. And, for everybody out there, hi, Maria. Okay, on Facebook Live, we have Maria's here. I see a lot of comments on here, so if I haven't waved to you or said hi, I'm sorry. Hi, Anna. Make sure you leave a message, and I'll get back to you. Great. Barbara, hi.
Hi.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm fine. And you?
Great, great. So what do you think about motivation as a way to learn?
Oh, I'm just getting started.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about your motivation. What has been your motivation to learn English?
I need it for my job.
That's good motivation.
Yeah.
So, do you think that this motivation is only about money and only about work, or is it also for yourself?
No, not exactly.
So, what about for yourself? Why do you think? What is it? What does English give you?
Well, when I'm in a different country, which outside of Poland, it's better to speak English with the others than speak nothing.
Great. Yeah. Where have you been?
I was in Ireland. I was in Paris, also speak English, and I was in Germany, and that's all.
And English helped you to communicate with people there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And were you able to make friends with people, form relationships with people in English?
No, I don't have any.
Really?
No.
No friends from Germany or from France when you went there?
No. In Germany, I have my sister. She's also Polish.
Okay.
And in Paris, we were with my daughter in Disneyland. So it was only a trip.
And what about your daughter? Does she study English?
Yes, she's just started to learn English. She's almost 13 years old, so she's just the beginning.
Yeah. I know a lot of parents, what they do with their children to help them learn a language is they will, speak English with them at home and maybe in some specific situations. So they say, look, there's a dog, say dog. This is what you say when you see a dog.
Yeah.
This is how you call a dog. And they learn some kind of signals about this situation.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn her know better English language.
Mm-hmm. It looks like someone else wanted to also speak.
Hello, Enrique.
Hi.
Hello, Enrique.
Enrique?
Hello, guys. How are you today?
Hi, great. So where are you calling us from, talking to us from?
I'm from Brazil.
Brazil, wow. So we have people from
Yeah.
all over the world here today.
Yeah, that's true, right?
That's great. So what's your motivation for learning English?
I always liked to speak with different people, and usually the main language, like the universal language, is English. And always was very familiar with the language, even though my parents they don't know how to speak. But even when I was a little kid, they always taught me like how to say the number, the colors, and that helped like it started like a fire, It was like sparkle to start learning something in that. It was like even though when I was a teenager, looking for something on internet, on books, and at my school, unfortunately, we didn't have a good system like with good English teacher and stuff. but I always was very motivated to speak. And my profession too, I always wanted to be a pilot. So pilots need to speak very good English.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
true.
was a good motivation too.
Yeah. And I think something that helps a lot is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but or let me phrase it as a question. In Poland and in Brazil, do you have English on the radio? Do you have English on the street, like shop signs that are in English? Do you have English in your communities?
Unfortunately not. Like here, especially in my city, I think in São Paulo and Rio, because like more business and tourist cities, they do have a lot more English speakers in the streets, but usually are more tourists. Like you don't listen that often in the street. But here I live in Belo Horizonte, and we don't have a lot of English speakers in the street, and even in the radio. Like of course, in the internet today you can find like different radios from all over the world and stuff, but it's not a very popular language. It's very hard to find good people that speak good English here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me see. We have a lot of places we use English language. A lot of Polish people use English language. So if you want to come to Poland, I think every person in Poland will somehow speak to you in English language. So
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah.
I mean, I lived in Russia for 7 years, and one thing that I really liked was that, well, I thought it was very, very convenient and very helpful for people who live there who want to speak English, is that everywhere on the street, a lot of different businesses and cafes, their names are in English. So people get used to seeing English. And then on the radio, they play music in English. And a lot of young people, their favorite TV shows are English TV shows. So like Enrique was saying, there is a lot of motivation in young people to learn English because they see it as, this world culture and this world language, and they want to be part of that. And that's a problem for people in my country, the United States, because we don't, in most places in our country, we don't have other languages around us. And people don't really think of other countries as helping them to expand around the world. Like I learned Russian, and I feel like now my opportunities have opened up so much. There's millions of people who I can speak to now who I couldn't speak to before.
Yeah, but were you like you this like with this feeling to want to learn a new language was something about you, like you grow this inside you, like this motivation to learn something else, another language,
For me,
because because other countries like we know that we niche because it's like a universal language and stuff. Well, it's like we wanna watch movies. All the movies usually are English, but for you, it's kind of different because you already live in the USA. You already speak English, so for you, I think it's kind of different. The motivation to learn other languages.
yeah, definitely. And maybe it's easier for American people because they think that everyone is speaking English and learning English, but also it's more difficult for them in the way that you just said, that maybe it's harder for them to get motivated. Because everywhere they go, people are trying to speak with them in English. So we talked a lot about motivation, and now let's talk about some other keys to learning English. Motivation was the first thing because everybody who is motivated seems to have an easier time learning. That's not only about English, that's about any skill. And as we said before, language is like a behavior. So if we're learning a behavior, motivation also makes that easier for us. Actually, a lot of times, I don't teach children right now, but when I taught children in the past, a lot of parents would come to me and they would ask me, what can I do to make my children learn faster or learn better or study more? And I just the most important thing that really any parent can do or any teacher can do is to make the language environment or anything that's associated with this language be positive. So some parents actually one approach is some parents tell their children, for example, you can only play video games for an hour unless it's in English. Then you can play for 2 hours. Or, for example, you can't use the internet in the morning unless you're studying English. And so they kind of start associating some things that the person likes with English. Or they might tell them, here are the cartoons that you can watch. Give them cartoons that are in English. And they start to watch them, and they think, okay, my cartoon time is associated with English time. And as we know, almost every kid likes cartoons. So when we connect these positive, emotions to the language and the atmosphere around the language, we make it a lot easier to motivate these kids, and it's a lot easier for them to learn. So this not only works with children, it works with adults too.
I may say I started to learn my daughter English language when she was almost 3 years old, and we were singing English songs, some like Happy Feet or Happy Song, not Happy Feet, counting from 1 to 10, and other songs which is in English. And that's how she starts to learn English. Now she's got in school.
Yeah. I know there's some songs like there's a good channel on YouTube I think called Mother Goose, and you know this one?
Yeah, but she's too old for that now.
Yeah, some parents I know used this when their kids were very young, and while they were eating, they would play these cartoons, and they would watch the cartoons and hear the songs in English and eat at the same time. And eating is probably the most positive thing that you can associate with anything. So, okay, about that, we understand about motivation. It's really, really, really the most important thing that we can do, even if we're not really studying the language. For example, some parents who don't speak English at all, how can they help their children? Anytime that the child is, doing something related to English, the parents can, tell them, oh, wow, that's great. You're doing a great job, and not push them, but encourage them and give them positive feedback about their language studying time. So let's talk about some other things that we can do. We talked about motivation. We talked about modeling relationships for people. That's really what a teacher should do. But other keys. You might have heard of something called language acquisition. And this is a big, scary word for a lot of people, but language acquisition really is just another way to say that people need to learn naturally, and not only from books, not only in a classroom. And I'm going to go back to what I said again about speaking like a book. We don't want people to speak like a book. You've probably met people who speak your language like a book. It sounds very strange, very awkward, and they can't help it because that's how they learn. But we need to make a more natural way for people to learn, and in order to do this, sometimes we need to give them some skills. Some of these skills are how to listen to a language. Teaching someone how to listen. And a teacher can really be effective in doing this by creating cues or signals. So, even if we're speaking, a lot of times when we're speaking slang, or if we're speaking very quickly and blending words together, we tend to say the sounds a little bit differently. So some hand gestures, some movements, some body movements, body language in general, can help us to communicate some ideas that people might miss if they're just listening to us speak.
I'm sorry, I have to say goodbye because my dinner is ready.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
So, language acquisition. A lot of tasks that teachers give in schools, at colleges, universities, focus too much on language learning, not enough on language acquisition. And this language acquisition is one of the most important things. Imagine learning from a book. Imagine you just read a book that tells you how to speak, how different words are pronounced, how the language is put together. And imagine you have a person who's not a teacher, who doesn't tell you anything about how words are put together, doesn't tell you anything about grammar, or anything about why the language works this way, but he just talks, and just talks, and just talks, and just talks. What do you think? Which one do you need in order to learn the language? The answer is that you need both. If you just have the book, and you just learn from the book, and you just learn the rules, you will sound like a book. It's that simple. And if you just learn from someone who speaks all the time and doesn't explain anything to you, then you're probably going to not really understand a lot of things, and you're going to repeat a lot of things as if they were true, but they're not. So you might hear some word and say, like, I think that this is what this means. He always says it like this. And you might say it might be a really bad word, but you didn't know that. So we have to have a balance of language learning and language acquisition. But today, too many people focus only on language learning. And I'm going to bring back the other idea from earlier where I said that, we need to model a relationship for our students. Modeling a relationship for our students means that we show them how people change how they talk as they get to know each other more. The first day when you meet someone, you speak much differently than the 30th time when you meet someone. Anybody who has studied English a little bit might know what an inside joke is. You guys know what that means? An inside joke. An inside joke, it's some kind of joke or some information that people in a group know and understand, but people outside of that group probably will not understand. They won't know what we're talking about. It'll sound like some crazy idea to them. So when we have inside jokes, this is a sign that we've developed some kind of relationship, right? We understand how the other person communicates. And maybe you also, let's take another example. Maybe maybe it's happened to you. You're talking with your friend, and you say the first half of a sentence or a phrase, and your friend automatically can say the second half. Or maybe you just say half of a word, and your friend can say the other half. This isn't just because you both know the language. Okay, sometimes it's because of cultural aspects where, you both watch the same movies or know the same songs, so lots of people speak about these things. But also, this can happen between friends. And not only between friends, but between people who have a lot of communication with each other. And that's all part of that relationship that we form with the teacher that allows us to say, we talked about this before, I remember this thing, and now we're going to approach it in a different way. When we have a relationship that we're developing, and again, when I'm using the word relationship, that's because it's not a romantic relationship. It's not like we're going to be best friends. A relationship is just how these two people are interacting, how they're behaving with each other. And this changes over time. So the more influence, the more time that the person spends with another person, the easier it is for you to develop a special way of communicating. And if you're able to model this with your teacher, you'll be able to do it more successfully when you meet other native speakers outside of the classroom. I mean, just think, if you practice all of your jokes in front of a mirror, then when you go on stage, you're going to tell the jokes in a funnier way, and more people are going to laugh. That's the same way we need to think about the language. Is that you practice your language with the teacher, you practice developing the relationship with the teacher, and then when you go and meet another person, you say, I remember when we talked about this topic, the teacher took the direction this way. He started talking about another topic. And that means that maybe when I'm speaking to this person, if I direct the conversation in that way, then I'll be more effective. Just think about that next time when you're speaking in your native language, in your first language. Think about how you move a conversation in different directions. Think about how you speak differently with people who you have known for a long time and people who you've just met. Think about how you reuse jokes and conversational strategies. These are things that you probably didn't think about before, but these are things that help people when they're learning languages. These are language learning strategies. So, on that note, I'm going to wrap up this lesson. But before I do that, I want to say thank you to everybody who watched today. I know that today I talked a lot, and it wasn't as interactive as most of my other lessons on here have been. But next time we will be doing something a little bit different. So, there will be more interaction. And most of all, I really want to tell you guys that if you are interested in this, that there's a way for you to get more involved and to have more experience and learn more strategies for modeling relationships in the classroom, for, positively creating a positive language learning environment, and all of the other things that I've been talking about today. All you have to do is go to the link. I'm going to post the link under this video as soon as I finish it. Go to the link. You can just sign up there, and I will give you information about the next time when we're going to have free webinars, and I'll give you information about some good resources that you can use, and also about my one-on-one training sessions, language coaching sessions. So if you're interested in any of that, you can send me a message about that, and there will also be a link that I will send and I will post everywhere also. So you can also check out my Facebook group. I'll send the link to that as well, and my VK group, as well as my YouTube channel, which has a lot of free, just a really lot of free videos. So, with that, if there are any questions, feel free to write them to me, and thank you for watching again. Make sure to tune in next time, and I will see you guys later. Make sure you have a great evening, or morning, or afternoon, wherever you are right now. And, English is a very important thing to learn, as you already know if you're here. And we want to expand that and help other people learn as well. So, thanks again, guys, and
thanks to you, and have a great one.
You too.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
All right, bye, guys.
Thanks.